Welcome to Shape Up Your Website. Day 2, Measure Your Website. My name is Lorraine Ball, and I have often been referred to as a marketing strategist, recovering corporate executive, or amateur photographer. But today, I am a fitness coach for your website. We're going to talk about how you can shape up your website in just 5 days. Today's program is Day 2 of a 5-day program. Each of the presentations is designed to be completely self-contained and stand on their own, but collectively they are a powerful process for improving every element of your website. Today we're going to focus in on the metrics because there's power in the data. The numbers and information that you can get from your Google Analytics reports can give you tremendous insight into what's working and not working on your website and a starting point for action. So what are web analytics? This is a process of measuring, collecting, and analyzing your web data. And there is all sorts of useful real-time information. You can use this data to measure your return on investment. You can compare referral sources. You're participating in social media and you're sending out email campaigns, and you can see, are you getting traffic from those sources? You can run different advertising campaigns, and in real time you can see which ads are delivering results and which ones aren't. You can also track leads, prospects, and sales. You can see if someone came from a particular ad. Not only did they come to your website, but what did they do? How long did they stay? Did they fill out a form? Did they take the next step? And then you can use this information to refine your targets and refine your messages. Really look at who or which prospects are most likely to take the next step. Which pages on your website are the most effective at converting people and encouraging people to take the next step? And also you can look at revising your calls to action and providing visitors with next steps based on what worked and what didn't. As we get started, it's really helpful if we take a look at some of the words and phrases, because there are times when you're talking to someone who is an expert in this, it almost feels as if they are talking another language. And so I'm going to give you some basic vocabulary. So as we look at some of these screens later in the presentation, the language and the words will make sense. The first one, very simple, a hit. Everybody talks about hits to your website. This is a request for a file from a web server. So when you're at your computer and you go to a web page, your server is requesting information from the internet. It's requesting pictures, it's requesting text, it's requesting all sorts of information. A page that has 20 or 30 pictures may actually have 20 or 30 different hits occurring. And so that is one reason why, as websites became more and more complex, hits became less and less important. Later I'm going to talk about a term called page view, and that is much, much more relevant for your audience and for measuring your audience. An impression is each time an image or an ad loads on a user's screen. The bounce rate. This is the number of visits where someone comes to your website and they come and leave after visiting only one page. Now, a lot of people will stress out about a high bounce rate, but I'm going to tell you that's not always a bad thing. If people are bouncing after they hit your contact page, well, they came for your contact info. They got what they wanted and they left. But if they are bouncing after hitting a page that is designed to sort of introduce them to more information, that is an issue, and that's something you want to look at and figure out, how do we make this page more interesting and stickier? How do we hold on to the people who are coming? A page view, this is a record every time a page is loaded. And so again, it can be a little bit imprecise, because if I see a page and then I go somewhere else and come back, that's actually recorded as multiple page views, but it's all really within one visit or one session. I really like to track visits and sessions. A visit or a session is a series of page views from a single visitor that they see in a specific period of time. So I want to know how many visits were there on my website yesterday, because that's the best indication of how many people actually came yesterday. They may look at 3 pages, they may have looked at 30. They may have just simply refreshed their screen, closing the browser and reopening it. And while that may count as multiple page views, it may still only count as one session. Visitors. Google is pretty crafty. When somebody comes to your website, there is a little unique ID that is stored in the visitor's cookie, in their cookies on their computer. So if they come back several times over a period of several days, their cookie, your website is going to see that cookie and go, oh, I recognize you. A cookie is a small piece of code that Google puts on someone's computer when they visit your website. Now, if someone comes to your website and they don't have that Google Analytics code, they're considered a new visitor. A returning visitor is someone who has the Google Analytics code. Again, this is not completely precise because the code is typically only stored about 90 days. And if someone is browsing incognito, where they're hiding their footprint, they're declining cookies, or they clean out all their cookies every time they shut down, they will always show up as new visitors. So I always look at the total number of visitors, and I don't pay as much attention to new and returning. Time on page, this is important because it tells me, is a page doing its job? Is it holding someone's attention? Time on site is how long a single visitor stays on my website. The A, B, and C's of analytics. The A's, audience. Did we attract the right people? You can learn a tremendous amount about the people that are visiting your website. You can find out age and gender and demographic location. In a way, it's kind of creepy, but it's also really helpful as you try to figure out, are you reaching people who potentially can buy from you? The other thing you need to be thinking about when you're thinking about your ABCs is acquisition. How did people find you? Did they do a Google search? Did they click on an ad? Did they come from another site, from social media, from email, or did they simply know your company name and web address and type that into the search bar? As we drill down and we take a look at each one of these different types of search, you can begin to paint a picture of where is your marketing working and where are you missing the boat. B and C, behavior. We want to take a look at what people are interested in. We want to look at their page views. And this thing called page path, which means I went from this page to this page to this page. I want to look at returning visitors if I can get good data, because that tells me whether I'm building a habit among my customers or whether I'm constantly having to go out and find new people. and conversion. Did they take the next step? And for every business, the next step is going to be different. It might be filling out a submission form, watching a video, making a comment, sharing content, making a purchase, sending in a form, downloading a resource. Whatever you define as conversion is conversion, but you need to be tracking that. You need to be looking at, is my marketing working? Are people taking the next step? So let's take a closer look at some of these metrics. Look at the Google charts that tell you how you're doing. The first thing is looking at visits. If you build it, will they come? When you're looking at your Google Analytics, you can adjust your dates. You can look at your performance over a year, over a month, over 3 months. You can set these dates any way you want. And then you can decide to take a look and compare to this period a year ago or this period last month. We typically like people to look year over year. And the reason is we are all in seasonal businesses. Maybe it's because I spent a lot of time in the heating and air conditioning industry, but I know that I can't look at May and June and really compare web traffic. I'm always going to have more traffic in June. I'm always going to have more in July and start dying out in August and September. So it's much more important for me to look at where were we a year ago. The other thing I always look for are unusual valleys or spikes. These are pretty, this particular company is pretty flat almost all year long. And so there's not a lot of difference, but every now and then you might see a big spike or a big fall off. And when that happens, you want to make sure that you record what caused that. Were you hiring? And so a lot of people came to your website to fill out applications. Did your server go down? And so your traffic fell off for a couple of days. Was there a huge national disaster or something else, a weather event that really changed how people interacted with your website during a specific period of time? The other thing you always want to look at is where are you green and where are you red? Here, the total number of sessions is up, users are up, and page views are up. So that's great. We're getting more people, and so of course there are more pages being viewed. The number that bothers me a little bit is this pages per session. This has fallen a little bit, and what that means is more people are coming, but each individual person is not looking at as many pages. They're not staying on the website as long. So you look at the percentage and then you really need to look at the detail. Is it that big a deal that they've gone from, 44 tenths, 44 seconds instead of 41 seconds? That's not huge. But if that trend continues month after month after month, you definitely want to start looking at it. And here on pages per session, what I would do is very quickly take a look at the pages they're coming to and see if I can create some interesting links between the pages. And again, as I said before, I think the new and returning data is a little distorted. Audience, remember I told you that you could find out demographics. This is some of the data that you can look at. You can look by age. And so for this particular company, you can see that they're definitely skewing younger. If this is appropriate, if this is their target market, they need to keep it up. If their objective, however, is to appeal to an older consumer, they've got their work cut out for them. This particular company is pretty evenly split, male and female. That isn't necessarily good or bad. It just depends on who your target is. One of the things that I noticed about my website is we actually did better with men on Facebook and women on our website. So we started kind of tweaking our content to appeal more broadly to both. The other thing that you can do is really look at geographic. You can look nationwide, or you can dive in and actually look city by city within a state. This particular company has strong traffic from Virginia, Indiana, California, and Texas. It is an Indiana-based company where some of their employees live in California. That's why you're getting a little bit of this. I don't really know why Texas is so big, except Texas is so big. And the Virginia data may be skewed because AOL and some other, and particularly AOL, was based in Virginia. And so regardless of where you lived in the country, your location always showed up on these maps as Virginia. You can also click in and look at affinity categories. Now, this is really helpful if you are doing a consumer product, less so on a B2B, but you can really see what things people are interested in. Because this is a B2B company, you're not really going to see a lot of patterns. But if this was a consumer business and you saw some particular affinity categories popping up, it might give you clues on what to blog about, what to advertise, where to advertise and promote your business. Acquisition. When you're trying to figure out if your marketing is working, you want to look at what's driving traffic to your website. You want to look at the traffic sources. You want to compare over time to see, are we getting more or less organic? And you want to see the quality of the traffic. And by that, I mean, let's take a closer look at this graph. You see the vast majority of traffic to this particular website is coming from organic traffic. And then you want to see behavior. Do people who come from organic stay longer or shorter? Well, what you see here is that referral traffic. These people tend to come and go a little bit more quickly. There's not a lot of difference if they had more traffic, or if I went and looked at over a longer period of time to get a bigger number, you might see some differences. You see that they get the majority of their traffic from organic. There's a little bit of direct, and then social, referral, and email are all fairly small. So this is a company that needs to beef up their social media and get really serious about it, or give up. But straddling the fence and kind of doing it halfway is really not serving them well. What is working for them well is their organic search, where they are creating a lot of great content that people are finding and finding them. So let's take a look again at kind of those different traffic sources and what you can do to improve under each of them. The first, if you're looking for more direct traffic, the only way to grow that is with offline activity. You have to build brand awareness in the real world so people are more likely to type in your web address and come looking for you. If you want to increase your organic traffic, you need more content. You need to feed the beast. You need to get the attention of your search engines by giving them a steady diet of new information. Referrals, if you want more referral traffic, you need to increase links to your website. Cross-promote with other businesses. Make sure your company is listed on any and all relevant directories. If you're a member of the Chamber of Commerce, is there a link? If you're a member of an association in your industry, make sure there's a link. Social traffic comes not just with more activity, but with good activity. And if you want to grow traffic from your email program, you need to do two things. You need to expand your email program, and you need to be creating good, interesting, relevant content with clear calls to action that bring people back to your website. And paid advertising, I think there is a place for paid advertising, but I really believe that every website owner needs to address these things first before they go down the route of paid advertising. All right, so people come. Now what? Let's take a look at how you dive into the behavior of people on your website. The first thing that you can do is take a look at what pages are they going to and how do they get to you. Looking at landing pages helps you figure out what are the keywords people are searching. What kind of information are people looking for? The little slash line is always your home page, and that's almost always your first session. But then under that, you may see a lot of blog posts. You may see other pages. For some of my heating and air conditioning clients, usually the schedule appointment is the next step on that train. One of the things that I think is really important to look at is the quality of your landing page. So for example, the sign up for Dropbox share folder. This is a blog post that we wrote in 2014. It's a really good blog post and it brings a lot of people to our website. But as you can see, they come to read that blog post and then they leave. It's almost always new users, people who have never been on our site before, but they don't stay very long. They read through the article and they leave. Now, this blog post, what exactly does a business owner do? People stay a little longer, but the people who come to our homepage, those are the ones that typically are more interested. They will look at 2 or 3 different pages. And so that's always part of your calculation is what are people looking at? You can also look at behavior flow. You can look at how do people move through your website. They start here. Where do they go? What's their first interaction, their second, and their third? This particular part of your Google Analytics is really cool because you can click on just this and see when people start with Twitter dying, where do they go next? If people start with the Dropbox folder, where do they go next? You also want to look at the last page. Where do people end their journey? If it's the contact form on your website, that's actually pretty good. That means someone traveled through your website, found your contact form, and decided that information was what they wanted. Maybe they filled out the form, maybe they got your phone number. For us, this resource page is often the last stop on the train, and that kind of made me a little bit sad when I saw that because this page is really designed to be a jumping off page. It points you to other information. So I want to make sure that people see this and then go somewhere else. This, I then looked at exits versus page views. And what I saw was in this period of time, 1,100 people looked at the page. For 800, it was the last page they saw. That meant that about 300 people went from there to something else. They didn't make that page their exit. I can drill down. I can look at all pages. I can look at just landing pages. I can look at just exit pages or entrance pages. In the Behavior tab on your Google Analytics dashboard, you can look at all of these different things. And here's the challenge. You can get lost in the data. And I'll say this again later. You need to pick a few key metrics and look at those metrics every month for several months. And you need to focus your activity around a few things because otherwise you're going to be completely overwhelmed. Potential objectives. For example, you want to have at least 2 pages per visit. And so what are some of the actions that you can take if you are not at 2 pages per visit? Sometimes it's having too many choices. There's so many different buttons and calls to action on the page, I don't know where I need to go. And so if your page per visit is less than 2, go back and look at, are you overwhelming people? How quickly does your page load? If you have a non-responsive design, I'm going to guess that your page per visit is falling and your bounce rate is increasing. Why? Because a significant number of people are coming to your website from a mobile device. And if the page doesn't load correctly on mobile, they just leave. They're not going to fight with your website. If you have poor navigation and they can't figure out where to go next, they leave. And if there's no clear next step, if I get to the bottom of a great blog post or an informative page and there's no call us, schedule a visit, have a demo, let's have a conversation, something, there's no clear next step, I'm going to leave. If you want to improve interest and get people to stay longer, take a look at what are people interested in. Find your most popular blog posts and create internal links on related content and write more about the same topic. For example, I had a veterinarian who wrote a blog post about treatment for kidney disease in cats. It was a very popular blog post. And so he wrote another article on diagnosing kidney disease in cats, creating a healthy diet for cats with kidney disease. Why do older cats get kidney disease? And so on. And so he actually created a whole series of blog posts on the same topic, created internal links that made it easy for people to jump from one to the other. Other mistakes, old, thin, and unoriginal content. These days, Google considers anything less than about 500 words to be thin. Not enough information to really bother coming for. If your content is the same information I can find on a dozen different websites, I'm not very likely to stay very long. And if the information is old, if I go to your website and I see that you haven't written a blog post in 2 years, I'm not going to waste a lot of time. Too many options and no clear path. It's hard for you to figure out what people were interested in, and it's hard for people to figure out where they need to go to find more of what they want to know. You can set up conversion tracking. You can, using a little bit of Google code on a landing page, say, okay, I want people to come to my website, I want them to fill out the form, and when they fill out the form, I'm going to take them to a thank you page. And I can put the code on the thank you page, and then over time, I can track and see, did people click all the way through? How many people did convert? How many people abandoned along the way? The higher the conversion, the better job you're doing of keeping your audience. And I know that I have been talking a lot about Google, but when I'm focused on conversions, I'm going to tell you, you need to look beyond Google. Look at how many people filled out contact forms, how many people bothered to put comments on pages and on your forms, and how many social shares, how many people cared enough to share your content. Use the data to make decisions. I think this is the thing that is most appealing to me as a marketer, is I have always thought that if I could figure out what worked and I could do more of that, I could get better results. In the age of the internet, I have the data to make those good decisions. If you have questions, now's a great time to ask them.